Continue reading SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, CANTO 11, Chapter 1, Text 4 by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Naivani yatha paribhavo asya bhavet kathanchin mat samasrasyasya vibhavo nahanasya nityam antakalim yadu kulasya vidaya venu stambasya vahanim iva santim upaimi dhama. Lord Krishna thought no outside force could ever bring about the defeat of this family, the Yadu dynasty, whose members have always been fully surrendered to me and are unrestricted in their opulence. But if I inspire a quarrel within the dynasty, that quarrel will act just like a fire created from the friction of bamboo in a grove, and then I shall achieve my real purpose and return to my eternal abode. Even though Lord Krishna wanted to arrange for the disappearance of the members of the Yadu dynasty, he could not personally kill them as he had killed many demons, because the Yadu dynasty was his own family. One might ask why Lord Krishna did not arrange for them to be killed by others. Therefore it is stated in this verse, Naivani yatha paribhavasya bhavet kathanchit. Because the Yadu dynasty was the Lord's own family, no one within the universe was capable of killing them. Not even the demigods. In fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that no one within the universe was capable of even insulting the members of the Yadu dynasty. What to speak of defeating or killing them? The reason is given here by the words Mat Samasrasya. The members of the Yadu dynasty had fully taken shelter of Krishna, and therefore they were always under the personal protection of the Lord. It is stated, Mare Krishna rakhe ke rakhe Krishna mare ke. If Krishna protects someone, no one can kill him, and if Krishna wants to kill someone, no one can save him. Krishna had originally requested all of his associates along with the demigods to appear on the earth to assist him in his pastimes. Now that his pastimes were coming to an end on this particular planet and would be transferred to another planet in another universe, Krishna wanted to remove all of his associates from the earth so that in his absence they would not constitute a burden. Since the powerful Yadu dynasty, being the Lord's personal family and army, could not possibly be defeated by anyone, Krishna arranged an internal quarrel. Just as the wind in a bamboo forest sometimes erupts the bamboos together and creates a fire that consumes the entire forest, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has pointed out that ordinary people hearing of the adventures of the Yadu family might think that the heroes of the Yadu dynasty are as worshipable as Krishna, or that they are independent controllers. In other words, people polluted by Mayavada philosophy might see the Yadu dynasty as being on the same level as Krishna. Therefore, to establish that even the most powerful living entity can never equal or surpass the Supreme Lord, Krishna arranged for the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. Evam vyavasita rajan satya sankalpa ishvara sapa vyajena vipranam sanjhare swakulam vibhu. My dear King Parikshit, when the Supreme Almighty Lord, whose desire always comes to pass, had thus made up his mind, he withdrew his own family on the pretext of the curse spoken by an assembly of Brahmanas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has made a very important comment on this verse. He states that since the intentions of the Supreme Lord Krishna Chandra are always perfect, it was certainly in consideration of the greatest benefit for the entire world that he destroyed his own family on the pretext of a curse by Brahmanas. In this connection, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has shown a parallel in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself appearing as his own devotee. Lord Chaitanya appeared along with his first plenary expansions known as Lord Nityananda Prabhu and with Lord Advaita Prabhu. All three personalities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu, are accepted by Vaishnava Acharyas to be in the category of Vishnu Tattva. the full status of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three personalities of Godhead perceived that in the future their so-called seminal descendants would get undue recognition, and thus being puffed up would commit grave offenses against those who were actually Vaishnava gurus or representatives of the Lord. Every living being is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vamsaha. Every living entity is originally a son of God, yet to execute his pastimes, the Lord selects certain highly qualified living entities whom he allows to take birth as his personal relatives. But those living entities who appear as descendants of the Lord's personal family may undoubtedly become proud of such a position and thus abuse the great adulation they receive from ordinary people. In this way, such persons may artificially get undue attention and divert people from the actual principle of spiritual advancement, which is to surrender to the pure devotee who represents the Lord. The last 8 verses of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita give a description of the pure devotees of the Lord, permits to act as acharyas or spiritual leaders of mankind. In other words, simply to take birth in the personal family of Krishna is not the qualification for being a spiritual master, since according to Bhagavad Gita, Pitaham Asya Jagata, every living entity is eternally a member of the Lord's family. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu Name Dvesti Asto Na Priya. I am equal to everyone. No one is my enemy and no one is my special friend. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears to have a special family, such as the Yadu dynasty, such a so-called family is a special arrangement of the Lord's pastimes in order to attract the conditioned souls. When Krishna descends, he acts as if he were an ordinary person in order to attract the living entities to his pastimes. Therefore, Krishna acted as though the Yadu dynasty was his personal family, although in fact every living entity is a member of his family. Ordinary people, however, not understanding the higher principles of spiritual knowledge, easily forgot the actual qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master and instead give undue importance to people born in the Lord's so-called family. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore avoided the impediment on the path of spiritual enlightenment by leaving behind no children. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu married twice, he was childless. Nityananda Prabhu, who is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not accept any of the natural sons born of his own son. Sri Virabhadra. Similarly, Lord Advaita Acharya divested of his association all of his sons except Achyutananda and 2 others. Achyutananda, the chief faithful son of Advaita Acharya, had no seminal progeny, and the remaining 3 of the 6 sons of Lord Advaita fell from the path of devotion to the Lord and are non-rejected sons. In other words, the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allowed title facility for continuing a so-called seminal family to create confusion. The respect shown to the conception of seminal lineage in difference to the ideas of the Smartas is unfit to be accepted by one who actually understands the supreme truth from Vedic authority. Other acharyas or spiritual masters have also demonstrated this point in their own families. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our own beloved spiritual master, who is the mighty author of this SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM series, was born in a family of pure devotees, and he himself exhibited all the symptoms of pure devotional service from his very childhood. Srila Prabhupada eventually came to the Western countries and exhibited unprecedented spiritual potency in establishing the Krishna consciousness movement. All over the world, in a few short years, he translated more than 50 large volumes of Vedic philosophy. By his practical activities, he is certainly understood to be a most empowered representative of the Lord. Nonetheless, his own family members, although devotees of Krishna, did not at all come up to the proper standard of devotional service and are therefore not given attention by the members of ISKCON. The natural tendency for the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness would be to offer all reverence and worship to the members of Srila Prabhupada's immediate family. But since by Krishna's arrangement these family members are not at all on the platform of pure devotional service, the members of ISKCON give them hardly any attention, but instead worship those who actually exhibit the qualities of highly advanced Vaishnavas, regardless of their so-called birth. In other words, birth cannot constitute the qualification for a respectable person, even when one is born in the Lord's own family or in the Acharya's family, what to speak of an ordinary, wealthy or learned family. In India, there is a class of men known as Nityananda Vamsa who claim to be direct descendants of Lord Nityananda and therefore worthy of the highest respect for their position in devotional service. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada has written in the Nectar of Devotion in the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claim to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste. They further claim that the practice and spreading of devotional service belong only to the particular class which was known as Nityananda Vamsa. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time until Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successful, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already a high-class Brahmana. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. It is on the basis of his position that anyone from any part of the universe can become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. In other words, the essence of the spiritual knowledge is that every living being, regardless of his present status in life, is originally a servant of the Supreme Lord, and it is the mission of the Lord to reclaim all these fallen living entities despite his past situation. Any living being who is willing to surrender again at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord or his bona fide representative can purify himself by strictly adhering to the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga and thus act as a high-class Brahmana. Nonetheless, the same